Welcome to my channel. I am Daisy, your hostess. You are in my book playlist, and in this video, we are going through the book titled Power Through Constructive Thinking by Emmet Fox. This book is in the public domain. We have gone through several chapters, and before I flip the page to the next chapter, two things I want to say. First, to my subscribers, thank you so very much for joining me on this journey, and also to you. If you just found us at this video, please do make sure that you visit my book playlist so that you can catch up on the other videos. Before I move on to the next chapter, I'd like to give a little highlight regarding the past 3 chapters. The titles were You Must Be Born Again, Dick Whittington, and The Yoga of Love. They were all very good chapters, and they all had golden nuggets. Like the one with You Must Be Born Again, the author starts this chapter by reminding us that Jesus spoke to the common person, to the common man. And in that, he also mentioned that this person may be unsophisticated in theology and in philosophy, but what he has is an intuitive perception that he is born with, and that is all we all need, because it's embedded in our hearts. All we need to do is open ourselves to receiving this. Emmet Fox is suggesting that in those 5 words is the clue of how to move to the next level. And he goes on to say that, you stand where you are today, wherever that may be, because you are the person that you are. Yet another person cannot stand where you're at. You're already occupying that space. You are already filling the need. Now, if you want to go higher, if you want to ascend, you can, and I can. All we have to do is want to that. And by all means, it would be the easiest thing, right? If you know that something is hurting you, if you know that what you are doing, if you know that your habits are not taking you where you need to be, where you want to be, where your heart desires, but yet you keep falling back. You take 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, and it's like very little progress is being made. But there's a part of you that says, yes, I need to stop this addiction. I need to stop drinking. I need to stop smoking. I need to spend more time with my family. Whatever this I need, whatever you think you need to be doing, why aren't we doing it? And as he mentioned, demonstrating that we understand these concepts, these divine laws, as I'm beginning to understand, it takes practice, but also comes with a price. Are we willing to pay that price? And not many of us are willing to pay the price. There are 2 sayings that can sum up this whole chapter. One comes from the book of Romans. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And the other one, you've probably heard it as a meme, which says, change the way you think and the things around you will change. You're born again. Now, the next chapter, Dick Whittington, I thought it was a beautiful story. It was based on a real person, but it actually had a lesson. And the lesson is, don't run away from your problems, because they're going to be there wherever you're going. And I could tell you from just observing people that try to get away from something, they move into the neighborhood, and if it's a drug addict, they'll find the drugs. If it's a hard worker, they'll find the people that work hard. It's just that we gravitate to what it is that we're either complaining about or we focus on the most. And Dick Whittington was running away from his problems, but you know what? He did something that most people don't do. But it's a reminder that we're all born with intuition. He turned around and faced his fear and was rewarded. He did many great things and received a lot of blessings. Now, the other one, the Yoga of Love, oh, how beautiful is that? I don't even want to touch up on it, because I could tell you one thing, that service is love in action. And every time that we are of service, we are demonstrating love. How beautiful that is. And now I invite you to sit back as I turn the page to the next section titled Your Heart's Desire. Power Through Constructive Thinking by Emmet Fox. This book is in the public domain. The next section that we'll cover in this video is titled Your Heart's Desire. An old adage says, God has a plan for every man, and he has one for you. And this is absolutely correct. Your real problem, therefore, in fact, the only problem that you ever have, is to find your true place in life. Find that, and everything else will follow almost automatically. You will be perfectly happy, and upon happiness, health will follow. You will be really prosperous. You will have all the supply that you require to meet your needs. And this means that you will have perfect freedom. For poverty and freedom cannot go together. Until you do find your true place in life, however, you never will be really happy, no matter how much money or distinction you may acquire. And until you are happy, you will be neither healthy nor free. Whoever you are, God has not made you without a definite purpose in view. The universe is a universe. That is, it is a unified harmony, a divine scheme. There can therefore be no such thing as a misfit or an unwanted or unneeded piece. It could not happen that God could create a spiritual entity such as you are without having a special purpose in view, and this means that there is a special and particular place in it for you. God never repeats himself, and so he has never made two people alike, and it is for this reason that no two people could ever do quite the same work or express themselves in quite the same way. That is why, rightly understood, there really need be no competition. There need be no such thing as, say, 2,000 people struggling for the same place in life. Whatever the place may be, there can be only one person who can fill it perfectly. And there are 1,999 other places somewhere waiting for the other people if only they would find them. But how is one to find his true place in life? Is there any means whereby you may discover what it really is that God wishes you to do? You may feel inclined to say, even if it be true that God has some splendid thing that he wishes me to do and to be, how can I possibly find out what it is? Perhaps you may even be tempted to add, I am a very plain, everyday sort of person. My circumstances are extremely restricted. The conditions of my life are just drab, commonplace. How then can there be something wonderful, beautiful, splendid awaiting me? Or even if there were, how could I possibly get to know about it? And the answer is divinely simple. Already in your past life, from time to time, God himself has whispered into your heart just that very wonderful thing, whatever it is, that he is wishing you to be and to do and to have. And that wonderful thing is nothing less than what is called your heart's desire. Nothing less than that. The most secret, sacred wish that lies deep down at the bottom of your heart. The wonderful thing that you hardly dare to look at or to think about. The thing that you would rather die than have anyone else know of, because it seems to be so far beyond anything that you are or have at the present time, that you fear that you would be cruelly ridiculed if the mere thought of it were known. That is just the very thing that God is wishing you to do or to be for him. And the birth of that marvelous wish in your soul, the dawning of that secret dream, was the voice of God himself telling you to arise and come up higher because he had need of you. God is infinite mind, and that mind is ever seeking for more and for new expression. For such the Father seeketh to worship him. Now, because you are a human being, you are intended to be a new point of expression for God, a focal point in the infinite mind. In fact, somewhat as an electric lamp may be regarded as a focal point for the manifestation of the electric current in the circuit, a focal point for the divine self-expression. That is what you are intended to be. And if you are willing to become that, then you will be fulfilling your destiny, and you will experience absolutely perfect and unalloyed happiness and harmony, and eternal and unrestricted development. A few people have attained to this, but they are still comparatively few. The great majority have lives full of problems of one kind or another that they have yet to work out. If one has perfect bodily health, and how few have even this, really perfect health, then he probably has financial difficulties, or it may be family troubles and unhappy home life. If health, finance, and home relations are satisfactory, there can still be a sense of frustration in other directions. In any case, in the absence of all-round fullness and harmony of expression, there is frustration. and frustration means trouble. Modern psychology has been slowly realizing that many human ills are traceable to mental suppression, but our study of fundamental truth teaches us that all trouble of every kind is really failure on the part of the individual to be a completely free focal point of expression for God. You say that you are unhappy, dissatisfied, perhaps ill, or impoverished, a failure. And this is simply another way of putting the fact that you are not allowing the will of God to have free play in your life. You are not doing the thing that He meant you to do. You are drifting, or else you are trying to do something that He never intended you to do and doing it badly, and distorting your soul in the process. It is useless to blame Providence for your troubles or to endeavor to saddle the responsibility upon other people. The universe operates strictly in accordance with law, for God, among other things, is principle, or law, and where law obtains, there can be no room for the idea of blame. If you break a law, you suffer the consequences, and that is all there is about it. It is not a matter of blame or punishment. It is just an impersonal question of cause and effect. This may seem hard at first sight, but actually it is your certain guarantee of ultimate victory and freedom. Impersonal law is certain to hurt you when you work against it, but for the same reason, it is equally certain to help you and heal you when you work with it. A human soul may be thought of as an opening through which infinite energy is seeking a creative outlet. If that outlet be a clear, open channel, all is well. If, on the other hand, it should become obstructed by any means, then the infinite energy, the life force, is frustrated, dammed back, and all sorts of local stresses are set up in that soul. And these we see as sickness, poverty, fear, anger, sin, and every kind of difficulty. Now we are in a position to understand what the real art of living must be. It must be to make this channel clear and to keep it clear. And if only we will do this, we shall find that health, prosperity, full self-expression, true happiness, in short, will then follow automatically. People work so hard to bring health to their bodies, to bring prosperity, to bring happiness, to bring success into their lives, to bring artistic or literary gifts or talents within their grasp, to bring great new ideas from the outside. And of course, they continually fail because we cannot bring a single one of these things from the without to the within. The actual development is just the very reverse. They have to be released from the within that they may appear on the without. In short, we have to build on from the outside. Our task, as Browning says, is to set free the imprisoned splendor. This process, the true manner of nature's working, is well illustrated by a simple anecdote. A certain man was working in his garden, assisted by his little girl. She had undertaken the interesting task of watering the lawn by means of the unusual rubber hose. Matters proceeded harmoniously enough until she suddenly cried out in disappointment, "Daddy, the water has stopped." The father looked over and, taking the situation in at a glance, said quietly, "Well, take your foot off the hose." The child had inadvertently placed her foot and most of her weight upon the soft rubber pipe, and thus, by her own action, shut off the water that she needed. She, of course, removed her foot at once, whereupon the water again flowed freely. 5 minutes later, she once more cried plaintively, "Daddy, the water has stopped again." Her father glanced across and observed that now she had placed her other foot upon the hose. He replied, "Well, take your foot off." The child did so, and again the stream flowed freely, and as she had by this time learned her lesson, she did not repeat the mistake and completed the interesting task she had chosen with much satisfaction to herself. The ultimate cause of all our troubles is just this. Behind all secondary and proximate causes lies the same primary mistake. We have been acting like the little girl in the story. We have been pressing our feet and the whole weight of our mentality upon the pipeline of life, and then complaining bitterly because the water does not flow. Man's business is rightly to handle his divine spiritual energy, and when he does this, he has found his true place, and then all goes well. There is only one fundamental energy in the universe, but this energy may be applied by us either constructively or destructively, because God has given us free will. When we use it constructively, we are acting in harmony with the will of God, and we are improving ourselves and our lives in every possible respect, and we are helping the world in general too. When we use it destructively, we damage ourselves, retard our progress, and waste an opportunity of helping mankind at large. We use our energy destructively whenever we think or talk fear and limitation, whenever we grumble or give way to self-pity or indulge in useless regrets or, in fact, in any form of negative thinking. Most of all, do we use our God-given energy destructively when we hold thoughts of criticism and condemnation of others. All bitterness, resentment, spiritual pride, and self-righteousness are peculiarly disastrous methods of misusing the great power, and that is why such thinking causes the terrible havoc that it does in people's lives. When we are in a condition of fear, anger, or worry, our divine energy, instead of flowing in some positive creative work, becomes dammed up within ourselves, like the water in the garden hose, and produces all sorts of trouble in soul and body. Meanwhile, our true work in life is either missed altogether or starved of the supply of life force which it should receive. It languishes accordingly, and we get mediocrity, poverty, and failure. This is why all true spiritual leaders are so insistent upon the need for unselfishness in motive, for forgiveness of others and of ourselves too, and for a general attitude of peace and goodwill toward all. For only in this way can we get that sense of true harmony and freedom that will permit the clear, unobstructed flowing of the divine mind through us. Only in this way can we become a free channel for the divine energy to express itself at the point of being, which is ourselves. This spiritual state of consciousness in which the life force finds the unrestricted outlet, which is so essential if we are to experience any kind of good, is technically known as serenity. And serenity, the great mystics are never tired of telling us, comes from within. It is not to be imposed from without by manipulating conditions or circumstances, or by any exercise of the will, but can only be derived from the natural, free flowing of our divine energy. It is important to understand also that, for practical purposes, the amount of this energy that one has at his command is limited, and therefore all that is frittered away in unnecessary or trifling activity or thought is so much taken out of one's capital, so much withdrawn from the things that really matter in life. If only people understood this, they would save themselves a great deal of wear and tear in the course of the day. And if all waste is foolish, how much more deadly is it to squander one's resources upon the kind of thinking that is absolutely destructive? Yet, I have known people, as I suppose we all have, actually to rehearse trouble beforehand, thereby, of course, bringing it upon themselves, through saying such things as that they never had any luck, that they felt quite sure that some important scheme would fail, that they expected to be ill, and so on. One who understands the law of being and how it works would no more think of wasting thought by allowing himself to occupy his mind with inharmony than a businessman would dream of throwing away money in the gutter as he walked along the streets. As far as God is concerned, our supply of divine energy is, of course, absolutely unlimited. There's no check of any kind upon the amount of it that we can appropriate, or therefore upon the things that we can do or be. Yet, for practical purposes, it remains that at any given time you can draw from the inexhaustible source only in accordance with the measure of your understanding, just as you can draw water from the Atlantic only in accordance with the size of the vessel that you use. If you have a pint pitcher, you can get only a pint of ocean water, although the number of pints in the Atlantic runs into inconceivable figures. At the same time, it is well to remember that very few people do, in fact, draw anything like as much of the divine energy as they could draw, even with their present understanding. Almost everyone is foolishly content to fill his pitcher, small as it may be, to somewhere very far short of the top. It will now be clear to the student that discontent is not necessarily a bad thing. On the contrary, it is your duty to be discontented with anything less than complete harmony and happiness. Discontent is an evil only when it takes the form of discouragement, cynicism, or despair. A wholesome discontent with dullness, failure, and frustration is your incentive for overcoming such things. Without it, you would never find your true place. But whoever you are, your true place is calling, and because you really are a spark of the divine, you will never be content until you answer. Remember that this call is the call of God, and when God calls you to His service, He pays all the expenses in whatever kind of coin. What soldier goeth to war at his own charge? Whatever you may require to answer that call, God will provide. Money, opportunity, introductions, knowledge, training, freedom, leisure, strength, and courage, all will He furnish, if you be about His business and not your own. Your heart's desire is the voice of God, and that voice must be obeyed sooner or later. End of section. We're going to stay here in this video and move on to the next section. Before I go ahead and flip the page, I'd love to ask if you could be kind, hit that like button. And if you like what you hear here and what you see, please do subscribe, share it with your friends. Let's move on to the next section titled, The Bogeyman Under the Stairs. This chapter is intended for people who are worried about something. I never tell people not to worry. To do that is to kick a man when he is down. Is it to be supposed that he is worrying for the fun of the thing because it amuses him? If so, the malady would not be worry and would call for different treatment. Of course, there are people who grumble and whine because they like to do so. That is a bad condition to be in and urgently needs attention. But it is not a case of worry. No, worry is hell, and a hell from which the victim is only too delighted to escape when he sees the faintest shadow of a chance. Is it really possible to get rid of worry? That depends altogether on whether or not you understand the truth of being. If you do, the answer is yes. Consider the following. A boogie that you do not believe in has no power to hurt you or worry you. The boogeyman who lives under the cellar stairs cannot frighten or deceive you now because you do not believe in him. But when you were 3 years old, it was very different. Then he had the power to raise your heartbeat to a gallop, draw all the blood out of your cheeks, set your knees knocking together, and literally curdle the food in your little stomach. Given favorable conditions, he could have stopped your heart altogether and killed you. Yet today he cannot cause one flicker of an eyelash because you do not believe in him. That is the whole difference. Nothing in reality has changed. There is no boogeyman there, and there never was one at any time. The difference is in you. You have now changed your thought. You have found that he was only a boogie, and so you are free. Now, it is exactly the same with any other kind of evil that may seem to be showing itself in your experience, for all evil is a boogie. It is there only because you believe in it, and it will disappear directly you cease to believe in it. The only life it has is what it receives from you. The only power it has over you is what you give it in belief. Any material object or situation can be changed into something else by spiritual treatment or scientific prayer. No matter what the present state of any object, say an organ of the body, may be, it can be changed for the better by scientific prayer. No matter what may have taken place at some past time, it can now be changed into a different happening by scientific prayer. No matter what might happen tomorrow, without prayer, it can be made to happen quite differently by means of scientific prayer. Your sprained ankle, or the consequences to you of having ruined your frock with the ink bottle, can be completely transformed by scientific prayer. Last week's lawsuit or next week's operation and all possible consequences arising therefrom can be completely wiped out of consciousness, everybody's consciousness, or they can be so changed in character that they are seen as a blessing for all concerned. It sometimes happens, for instance, that you buy some article, paying perhaps what is for you a considerable sum of money for it, only to discover when you have got it home that you have changed your mind and wish too late that you had not bought it. Never mind. Pray scientifically, and you will presently perceive that it was the right thing to get after all, and you will rejoice over the purchase, or in some other way you will obtain satisfaction concerning it. Of course, matters can only be changed for the better by scientific prayer. Since these things are true, and they are, it becomes clear that the material plane cannot be real, in the sense of being fixed or permanent, and once we grasp this fact, it no longer has any power to hurt us. The truth is that our material conditions have no identity in themselves, being but the outpicturing of the convictions in our minds, and as we always have the power to change our convictions, it follows that we can always change the outer picture too. So your present trouble, whatever it is exactly like the boogeyman under the cellar stairs. It is only a boogie, and the only power it possesses is the power you are giving it by believing in it. You must stop believing in it, and to do this, it is only necessary to pray enough, or to get someone else to do it for you, and that unhappy picture will change, gradually or quickly, into something quite different from what it is now, or else disappear altogether. With sufficient scientific prayer, you can even make it vanish completely from memory, but that will probably not be necessary. You do not want to forget the boogeyman under the stairs. You are quite indifferent about him because you really do know that he is only a myth. Now you will see why it is possible to get rid of worry. When you can say confidently, yes, at the moment this looks a bad business, but I know that by an active spiritual treatment, I can change it into quite a different situation. Real worry is at an end for you, and it is only a question of time before all-round health, happiness, and prosperity become the rule of your life. The name of the Lord is a strong tower. The righteous, right thinker, runneth into it and is safe. End of section. I'll meet you at the next video with more of this beautiful book titled Power Through Constructive Thinking by Emmet Fox.